It doesn't say I'm host anymore.
Now it's recording.
Okay.
Okay, so how Arjuna accepted this Bhagavad Gita should be noted. His manner of acceptance is given in the 10th chapter. Arjuna uvaka param brahmam, param dhamma pavitram, paramam bhavam, purusham sasvatam divyam adidevam ajam vibhum, ahustvam rasya sarva devarsi. Naradas tata asito davalo vyasa svayam kava bravissimi. Sarvam etad ritam manyayan mam vadasi kesava. Nahi te bhagavan vyaktim vidur deva na Danava. Arjuna says, you're the supreme Brahman, the ultimate, the supreme abode and purifier, the absolute truth and the eternal divine person. You are the primal God, transcendental and original, and you are the unborn and all-pervading beauty. All the great sages like Narada, Asita, Davala, and Vyasa proclaim this of you, and now you yourself are declaring it to me. O Krishna, I totally accept as truth all that you have told me. Neither the gods nor the demons, O Lord, know thy personality. After hearing Bhagavad Gita from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Arjuna accepted Krishna as Param Brahma, the supreme creator, supreme Brahman. Every living being is Brahman, but the supreme living or the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the supreme Brahman. Param Dhamma means that he is the supreme rest or abode of everything. Pavitram means that he is pure, untainted by material contamination. Purusham means that he is the supreme enjoyer. Divyam, transcendental. Adidevam, the supreme personality of Godhead. Ajam, the unborn. And Vibham, the greatest, the all-pervading. And so this is kind of how they always discuss this like very expansive and confusing and hard to grasp concept of God, right? Something that was never born and never dies, right? It's completely untainted. Spirit is untainted by the material. And it's sort of a beautiful concept, isn't it? You know, if you are not your body mind, which is very tainted by the material, right? It gets all kinds of issues. Being in the material world, it's always decaying, right? We just can't keep up with it. You can put all the lotion on, you can do all the exercises, but at a certain point, the body's going to break down. But this idea of if we identify with spirit, it's untainted by the material. No matter what happens to you, no matter what trauma you experience in life, there's something so pure inside of you that will never be changed, right? It has this unchanging quality that because we are a spark of that greater divinity, and that is the quality of the greater divinity, there's something unchanging about it. And it's all pervasive. It's everywhere, in everything, in every single atom, at all times. So now one may think that because Krishna was a friend of Arjuna, Arjuna was telling him all this by way of flattery. But Arjuna, just to drive out this kind of doubt from the minds of the readers of the Bhagavad Gita, substantiates these praises in the next verse when he says that Krishna is accepted as the supreme personality of Godhead, not only by himself, but by authorities like Sage Narata, Asita Devala, Vasyadeva, and so on. These are great personalities who distribute the Vedic knowledge as it is accepted by all acharyas or spiritual masters. Therefore, Arjuna tells Krishna that he accepts whatever he says to be completely perfect. Sarvam etad vritam manya. I accept everything you say to be true. Arjuna also says that the personality of the Lord is very difficult to understand and that he cannot be known by even the great demigods. This means that the Lord cannot even be known by the personalities greater than human beings. So how can a human being understand Sri Krishna without becoming his devotee? Therefore, Bhagavad Gita should be taken up in a spirit of devotion. One should not think that he is equal to Krishna, nor should he think that Krishna is an ordinary personality or even a very great personality. Lord Sri Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, at least theoretically, according to the statements of the Bhagavad Gita or the statements of Arjuna, the person who is trying to understand the Bhagavad Gita. We should therefore, at least theoretically, accept Sri Krishna as the supreme personality of Godhead, and with that submissive spirit, we can understand the Bhagavad Gita. Unless one reads the Bhagavad Gita in a submissive spirit, it is very difficult to understand Bhagavad Gita because it's a great mystery. This is what my teacher always says. Some of the things that you read may seem a little out there, but maybe it could be true. So the idea is just to keep an open mind and an open heart as you're reading these things, as keep it open as a possibility. And with that sort of attitude that it's a blessing that we're getting this information, more will make sense. Just what is the Bhagavad Gita? The purpose of the Bhagavad Gita is to deliver mankind from the nescience of material existence. Every man is in difficulty in so many ways, as Arjuna also was in difficulty having to fight the battle of Kurukshetra. Arjuna surrendered onto Sri Krishna, and consequently, this Bhagavad Gita was spoken. So that's the big war, the battle of Kurukshetra. Not only Arjuna, but every one of us is full of anxieties because of this material existence, our very existence in the atmosphere of non-existence. Actually, we are not meant to be threatened by non-existence. Our existence is eternal, but somehow or other, we are put into asat. Asat refers to that which does not exist. So sometimes it's translated asat as to that which is not truth. And a lot of times people are sort of existing in this like rote wheel of behaviors, and it's weird. It's like it happens from when you're first in the world. Like I see my little toddler, it's like she'll hear something and then it plays on repeat and she'll say it out loud and then she'll do the same thing over and over again. And it's the same with adults. We're like stuck in this cycle, in this wheel of repetition, and it brings us into this identification with things that are not true about ourselves, right? These little false identities that are placed on us from a young age that can cause suffering, right? Because the truth of our existence is that we are quite expansive and quite beautiful and quite unchanging. So out of so many human beings who are suffering, there are a few who are actually inquiring about their position as to what they are, what they are put into this awkward position for, and so on. Unless one is awakened to this position of questioning his suffering, unless he realizes that he doesn't want to suffer, but rather wants to make a solution to all sufferings, then one is not to be considered a perfect human being. Humanity begins with a sort of inquiry is awakened in one's mind. In the Brahma Sutra, this inquiry is called Brahma Jinasana. Every activity of the human being is to be considered a failure unless he inquires about the nature of the absolute. Therefore, those who begin to question why they are suffering, or where they came from, and where they shall go after death are proper students for understanding Bhagavad Gita. The sincere student should also have firm respect for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such a student was Arjuna. Lord Krishna descends specifically to reestablish the real purpose of life when man forgets that purpose. Even then, out of many, many human beings who awaken, there may be one who actually enters the spirit of understanding his position. And for him, this Bhagavad Gita is spoken. Actually, we are all followed by the tiger of nescience, but the Lord is very merciful upon living entities, especially human beings. To this end, he spoke the Bhagavad Gita, making his friend Arjuna his student. Being an associate of Lord Krishna, Arjuna was above all ignorance. But Arjuna was put into ignorance on the battlefield of Kurukshetra just to question Lord Krishna about the problems of life, so that the Lord could explain them for the benefit of future generations and human beings and chalk out the plan of life. Then man could act accordingly and perfect the mission of human life. The subject of Bhagavad Gita entails the comprehension of 5 basic truths. First of all, the science of God is explained, and then the constitutional position of the living entities, jivas, that's a individual being. There is Ishvara, which means the controller, and there are jivas, the living entities, which are controlled. If a living entity says that he is not controlled, but that he is free, then he is insane. The living being is controlled in every respect, at least in his conditioned life. So in the Bhagavad Gita, the subject matter deals with Ishvara, the supreme controller, and the jivas, the controlled living entities. Prakriti, which in all of our previous texts we've been studying about, Prakriti is the stuff that the world is made out of, the matter, the material nature, the things of atoms. And time, or Kala, the duration of existence of the whole universe, of the manifestation of material nature. Right? He gets into all the secrets of the universe in this book. And karma, activity, are also discussed. The cosmic manifestation is full of different activities. All living entities are engaged in different activities. From Bhagavad Gita, we must learn what God is, what living entities are, what Prakriti is, and what the cosmic manifestation is, and how it is controlled by time, and what activities of the living entities are. Out of these 5 basic subject matters in Bhagavad Gita, it is established that The Supreme Godhead or Krishna or Brahman or Supreme Controller, Para Atman, lots of names. You may use whatever name you like, is the greatest of all. The living beings are in quality like the Supreme Controller. For instance, the Lord has control over universal affairs, over material nature, etc., as will be explained in later chapters of Bhagavad Gita. Material nature is not independent. She is acting under the directions of Supreme Lord. As Lord Krishna says, Prakriti is working under my direction. When we see wonderful things happening in cosmic nature, we should know that behind this cosmic manifestation, there is a controller. Nothing could be manifested without being controlled. It is childish not to consider the controller. For instance, a child may think that an automobile is quite wonderful to be able to run without a horse or other animal pulling it, but a sane man knows the nature of the automobile's engineering arrangement. He always knows that behind the machinery there is a man, a driver. Similarly, the Supreme Lord is a driver under whose direction everything is working. Now, the jivas, or the living entities, have been accepted by the Lord, as we will note in later chapters, as his part and parcels. A particle of gold is also gold. A drop of water from the ocean is also salty. And similarly, we, the living entities, being part and parcel of the Supreme Controller, Ishvara, or Bhagavan, Lord Sri Krishna, have all the qualities of the Supreme Lord in minute quality or quantity, because we are minute Ishvaras, subordinate Ishvaras. If we are trying to control nature as presently, we are trying to control space or planets, and this tendency to control is there because it's in Krishna. But although we have a tendency to lord over material nature, we should know that we are not the supreme controller. That is explained in Bhagavad Gita. That is the benefit of surrender. All right, so what is material nature? This is also explained in Gita as inferior prakriti, inferior nature. The living entity is explained as the superior prakriti. Prakriti is always under control, whether, matter, there's always sort of some principle leading it, right? Some scientific mathematical equation that's leading the nature of matter, right? Whether inferior or superior. Prakriti is female, and she is controlled by the Lord, just as the activities of a wife are controlled by the husband. This was written in the 70s by a very old Indie. He was like very old when he wrote this book. So I know you're going to get pissed about some of the things. Let's just keep going. Prakriti is always predominated, controlled by the Supreme Lord. According to the Gita, the living entities, although parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, are to be considered Prakriti. That is clearly mentioned in the 7th chapter, 5th verse of Bhagavad Gita. Apariyam itas tiv anam. This Prakriti is my lower nature. Prakriti vidi mi param jiva bhutam maha baho yayedam darate jagat. And beyond this, there is another Prakriti, jiva bhutam, the living entity. Prakriti itself is constituted by 3 qualities. So these are the gunas: the mode of goodness, the mode of passion, and the mode of ignorance. So far, we've learned these as goodness being sattva, or lightness in the atoms. But if it's personified, which is the tradition of bhakti, they personify everything so we can understand it better. They're considering sattva goodness, right? Rajas is activity, movement, right? Action. And what they're calling that, right? That would be passion if it's personified. And the last is tamas, which would they say is the mode of ignorance, but in other traditions they say it's heaviness. It's the heaviness of the universe, the universal energy. Above these modes there is eternal time, and by a combination of these modes of nature and under the control and purview of eternal time, there are activities which are called karma. These activities are being carried out from time immemorial, and we are suffering or enjoying the fruits of our activities. For instance, suppose I am a businessman and I've worked very hard with intelligence and I have amassed a great bank balance. Then I am an enjoyer. But then say I have lost all my money in business. Then I am a sufferer. Similarly, in every field of life, we enjoy the results of our work or we suffer the results. This is called karma. So he's just doing a brief overview of all the different topics that are discussed at great length in the book. Is everybody doing okay? You want me to keep reading? Yeah. Ishvara, yes, Ishvara, the Supreme Lord, Jiva, the living entity, Prakriti, nature, eternal time, and karma, activity, are all explained in the Bhagavad Gita. Out of these five, the Lord, the living entities, material nature, and time are eternal. The manifestation of Prakriti may be temporary, but it is not false. Some philosophers say that the manifestation of material nature is false, but according to the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita, or according to the philosophy of the Vaishnavas, this is not so. The manifestation of the world is not accepted as false. It is accepted as real, but temporary. It is likened unto a cloud which moves across the sky, or the coming of a rainy season which nourishes grains. As soon as the rainy season is over, and as soon as the cloud goes away, all the crops which were nourished by the rain dry up. Similarly, this material manifestation takes place at a certain interval, stays for a while, and then disappears. Such are the workings of Prakriti. But this cycle is working eternally. Therefore, Prakriti is eternal. It is not false. The Lord refers to this as my Prakriti. This material nature is the separated energy of the Supreme Lord. And similarly, the living entities are also the energy of the Supreme Lord, but they are not separated. They are eternally related. So the Lord, the living entity, material nature, and time are all interrelated and are all eternal. However, the other item, karma, is not eternal. The effects of karma may be very old indeed. We are suffering or enjoying the results of our activities from time immemorial, but we can change the results of a karma or our activity. And this change depends on the perfection of our knowledge. We are engaged in various activities. Undoubtedly, we do not know what sort of activities we should adopt to gain relief from the actions and reactions of all these activities, but this is also explained in Bhagavad Gita. The position of Ishvara is that of supreme consciousness. The jivas, or the living entities, being part and parcels of the Supreme Lord, are also consciousness. But the living entity and material nature are explained as Prakriti, the energy of the Supreme Lord, but one of the two, the jiva, is conscious. The other Prakriti is not conscious. That is the difference. Therefore, the jiva Prakriti is called superior because the jiva has consciousness, which is similar to the Lord's. The Lord is supreme consciousness, however, and one should not claim that the jiva, the living entity, is also supremely conscious. The living being cannot be supremely conscious at any stage of his perfection, and the theory that he can be so is a misleading theory. Conscious he may be, but he is not perfectly or supremely conscious. So that could seem kind of confusing. Let's explain. So a rock is Prakriti, right? But it doesn't have consciousness. My body is Prakriti, but it is animated by my consciousness. That helps to make a little clearer what he's talking about over there. Right? So some of Prakriti can be conscious and some of Prakriti can be unconscious. The distinction between the Jiva and Ishvara will be explained in the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. The Lord is Kshetra, conscious, as is the living being, but the living being is conscious of his particular body, whereas the Lord is conscious of all bodies because he lives in the heart of every living being. He is conscious of the psychic movements of the particular jivas. We should not forget this. Sometimes the analogy is used that inside of us are the Atman, or individual consciousness. It's like sitting on a tree branch with your best friend. So the Paramatma, the great consciousness, is sitting next to the consciousness. I was raised Roman Catholic, right? So there's this idea that divinity is something that's outside of me, that I have to like look up to the sky and pray to. But what yoga teaches is that it's all pervasive and it extends into yourself as well. So if you want to access it, all you need to do is look inside. Right? So that's what the Bhakti tradition teaches. Because he lives in the heart of every living being, he's conscious of the psychic movements of the particular jivas. We should not forget this. It is also explained that Paramatma, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is living in everyone's heart as Ishvara, as the controller, and that he is giving directions for the living entity to act as he desires. The living entity forgets what to do. First of all, He makes a determination to act in a certain way, and then he is entangled in the acts and reactions of his own karma. After giving up one type of body, he enters another type of body, this reincarnation. And as we put on and take off old clothes, as the soul thus migrates, he suffers the actions and reactions of his past activities. These activities can be changed when the living being is in the mode of goodness, or sattva, insanity, and understands what sort of activities he should adopt. If he does so, then all the actions and reactions of his past activities can be changed. Consequently, karma is not eternal. Therefore, we stated that of the 5 items, Ishvara, Jiva, Prakriti, time, and karma, 4 are eternal, whereas karma is not eternal. Okay, so it's 8 o'clock. You want me to pause here and we'll discuss?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I'm gonna share the link to the PDF, so if anyone wants to save it on their own computer, it's in the chat.
Thank you, Pam. So what's everybody's thoughts on this? Did anything sort of poke out at you? Catch your attention?
Surrender.
Yeah, for sure.
The first thing that poked out at me was something a little different, which is unification. What is this? The 4th introduction? Whatever it is pulling together a lot of things that seemed very piecemeal to me before. So as I'm relatively new to this, and as I think in outlines, I think in spreadsheets, this is how I like to do it. Something bigger goes, and so this to me is just wonderful. I'm supposed to get my copy today. I can hardly wait. Okay. I know it's not talking about the spiritual essence. Micheline said surrender, but for me, this is very important. So I'm just all aflutter.
Oh, good. Well, yeah, I mean, you've been studying this stuff very intensely for a year. And that was what I was saying on the first day. It's like, I love the Bhakti tradition because it does this. It brings it all together in a really easy to digest way with fun stories.
Yes.
And we're so human. It's like, let's sing and tell stories. It's a lovely way to, yeah, like when you go to India and they're worshiping in Bhakti, it's just a big party all the time. They wake up at 4 a.m. and they go to temple and everybody's chanting and eating prasadam and there's so much joy. People are just, you can walk down the street and you'll see like a kirtan going on, like the cows are walking by them and people are just like singing down the streets. They got their drums going and there's just so much joy involved in the process. It's not very somber like other traditions are, which is, refreshing, especially because they're considering the time we're in. They talk about Chaitanya came along, one of these teachers, and he said, so at this point, the mantras were only accessible to Brahmins. And he said, it is Kali Yuga. The only way any of us can become self-aware and aware of divinity is if everybody has access to chant the name of the Lord. So he took kirtan out onto the streets and he gave the mantras to everyone, the Hare Krishna mantra. So you see these pictures of them just like in total bliss, chanting together. And yeah, it's just a very joyful culture, which is in this time of darkness, which is Kali Yuga, it's a way to more easily transcend. So it does feel good. It does feel good to get the information and the capacity that they give it. Yeah. Thanks, Sue. Any other thoughts before we start pranayama? Okay.
I want to just share, Amanda. Yesterday, I had a lot going on in my brain, and after we did this, I have a Hare Krishna chant on my phone by Krishna Das, and it was 20 minutes, and it was perfect for my meditation when I needed noise. So I'll put it in the chat if anybody wants to share it. Maybe not for today, but to have. It was. I noticed not just for me, but even taking classes, because we're all so isolated, we don't realize how much we're missing that chanting, dancing aspect of it. People, Amanda, like students were like, can Callie come back? Like they want the chanting part of it.
I was on the phone with Joshua Green the other day, and he was saying like this whole lineage that we're a part of. He's a teacher of bhakti. He actually studied with the person who wrote this book. That was his guru. He's saying, you know, that the tradition of this is that we all are supposed to be together in sangha and community, singing and eating, and like, and he's like, I just wonder, you know, what the intention for this time was to isolate us all in such a way. And he's like, it's amazing we have so much information and all these tools, and we're blessed for that. But he said it's like it's very interesting to try to apply these things, because it's not as easy when you don't have your community and you don't have your kirtan and all this
I know,
stuff.
but I think we all needed a timeout to reset. we were two in community. We couldn't think for ourselves anymore.
Mm.
All right.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was.
Yeah, just a pause. It's not permanent. It's just like a quick timeout.
A little introspection time.
Yeah.
We're in the cave. We got our Himalayan cave we were hoping for. It's just in our house. All right, do you want to lead pranayama or you want me to lead?
If you want to lead, you can lead. We haven't had you lead in a while, but if you're not ready, I'll do it.
That's fine. I got my screen on today. I pulled myself together before. Sometimes in the mornings I just put my timer on my phone and start the phone in bed. Let me spell it. Okay, so let's start with alternate nostril breathing. You can take your right hand and fold the peace fingers into the center of the palm. Close off your right nostril with the thumb, inhaling through the left nostril. Close off both and exhaling through the right. Inhale through the right. Close off both. Exhale through the left. Inhale through the left. Close off both. Exhale through the right. Inhale through the right. Close off both. Exhale through the left. So you may continue like that if you're just getting back into your practice of alternate nostril breathing. If you've been doing it for a couple of months now, you can start to retain the breath. So inhale, left side, close off both sides, squeeze in the pelvic floor lock, pull the belly in, tuck the chin, turn the eyes up. And exhale out the right side. Inhale through the right side. Close off both. Squeeze the pelvic floor, the belly, the chin, turn the eyes up. Exhale at the left side. Inhale through the left side. Close off both. Squeeze the pelvic floor, the belly, tuck the chin, turn the eyes up. And exhale at the right side. Inhale to the right side. Retain. Locks. Exhale through the left side. Take one more round like that. When you're done, exhale out the left side, and then we'll come to breath of fire. So inhale all the way. Exhale all the way. Inhale halfway, and we're gonna pump the belly for 30. Retain the breath. Inhale all the way. Access the locks. Exhale all the way out. Inhale halfway. We'll take 30. Inhale all the way. Retain. exhale all the way. One more time, we'll inhale halfway. Inhale all the way. Retain. And exhale all the way out. So we'll take bumblebee breath. Closing off the ears, closing off the eyes. You'll inhale through the nose, and as you exhale through the nose, create a buzzing sound like a bumblebee. Keep your mouth shut. Try to relax the throat, open the palate. Inhaling, we'll go for 5. When you're done, you'll take your hands down to your knees, with the palms facing up, thumb and pointer finger touching. The eyes closed. So maybe you're doing mantra repetition like Pam said, doing that Maha mantra. Maybe you're working on just focusing on one thing at a time, one thought at a time, focusing on bodily awareness, your body in the space trying to relax. Maybe you're focusing on a nice long inhale and exhale without strain. All right, whatever practice you're using, stick with it for the 20 minutes. prayer, bow the head. Namaste, everyone. Thanks for joining in this morning. Hope to see you all tomorrow.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Enjoy.
Have a great day, Adriana.
Bye.
Bye.